Bonnie, welcome to the Be the One podcast. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. It's always fun to have you here. So this is your second podcast interview.
It is. The first one didn't have a camera.
I know.
I think I preferred that.
I know. I actually, there's some benefit to knowing you're not going to be on video. I understand that.
Yeah, it's a little distracting. But I do want people to go listen to
Yes,
it. It has
for sure.
a lot of detail and history that we can't get into today.
No, that we can't. So this is a different episode.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So for those who do want to go back and listen, it's episode 9.
Episode 9.
And there is no video component to it, but we do hope you will go back and listen to everything that the Learning Center does and serves our schools serves our divisions in different ways.
And why.
And why.
And
Exactly.
Why. And, so if somebody doesn't know what we do and doesn't understand it, or that's a good place to get some basics.
Yep, for sure. So for those of you who are new today listening to us, you are our
Director of the Learning Center.
You are the Director of the Learning Center.
I am.
Yes. And so today we want to talk about just some of the terminology and things like that associated. But before we even get into that, tell me what you love about your job.
So many things, but interestingly, just now I took a walk in the quad with a prospective student who had just finished testing, and we were waiting for her mom, and so we just took a lap, and she asked me that. She said, "What do you love about working here? What's it like to work here?" So I think I'm going to tell you that what I said to her, because it just came out, and she's an interesting kid, and she had kind of a way of getting straight to it and asking a really good question. And I said the people.
Right.
But I said, when it's hard to get out of the bed in the morning and you just don't want to go, I go because there's someone waiting for me who needs something from me. And I don't want to let people down. And so it's the people. That's, we say that a lot. It's the people. What about them? Like, I like them. We're all fun. I like to come to work. We have good people. It's a good place to work. But it's the person who you're going to help or serve, or who's counting on you.
Right.
I think that day to day, and then I think when we see the results or the fruit, or there's growth and there's excitement and goals met, things like that. Yeah. Those are kind of what we live for.
Yeah, makes it all worth it. So
for sure.
Well, we're glad you are in the role you are, and we love the Learning Center, and I'm just grateful for every single one of those teachers and for all y'all do. So they're amazing.
They really are amazing.
It's an amazing group of people. So, okay. Well, so we want to talk a little bit about some of the terminology that our parents might have questions about, that you hear a lot in today's world about education and things like that. And some of it is specific to the Learning Center, but some of it is not. So I just want you to kind of talk through some of those things with us today. Okay. All right, let's start with a learning difference.
Okay.
Let's go there. Let's start there.
So learning difference, learning disability, people call them, through the years, there's like a preference for what, as we learn more about learning differences, learning disabilities, neuroscience has really changed education and what we know about the students sitting in our desks, and it's less about us and how we want to run a classroom and what works for us and what's easy and what we've done forever, and more about how do they learn? How do students learn? And so really even learning difference is going to be a little obsolete.
Right.
It might even already be, but we do it because it's some common language that people understand.
Right.
Because neurodiversity, I think, is the word that we want to begin to move to. And after that, it'll be something else once we know a little more. But we used to consider students kind of in 2 categories.
Right.
Normal students and students with a learning disability. And we realize now, I'm really glad we had some discovery and had names for it and knew what to do about it. But we realize now that there are just kind of shades of those things, and that every student sitting in a desk in a school like Brookstone learns a little differently. Right. And our goal is to meet each one, like bring out the very best in every student. Our goal in the industrial age was to sit in rows and everybody behave the same and do the same thing and draw no attention to yourself, and the teacher was in charge. And that's just not classrooms today anywhere, or shouldn't be. And so we know so much more about students and how they learn. And so I guess that's a long way of saying that I want people to know that everyone has something different about the way they learn.
Right. Right.
But the way that we categorize a learning difference would be if you have a diagnosis of some sort, maybe. Not always, but like dyslexia or dysgraphia would be the two that stand out to people.
Right.
ADHD is a diagnosis, but it's not a learning disability, but it impacts the learning environment.
Right. Right.
So it gets looped in there, sometimes with that one, but that's what that is referring to.
Okay. All right. And very helpful.
This is a question that I get a lot. I got it this week from a teacher. Students who receive accommodations.
Yes.
So if
yes.
you're,
that's on my list.
Okay. Well, then maybe we'll go there then.
Yep. Let's go there.
Just go now.
Yeah. Sure. Why not? We'll jump around.
Okay. So students who receive accommodations, it's not because I decided that I wanted them to have accommodations.
Right.
It's a little more official than that, and they have what we call, I think, is also on there, a full psych eval.
Yes. Yes.
And that full psych eval is given by a licensed psychologist. It's not, the Learning Center doesn't do that.
Right.
And then it gives a whole lot of information about how the student learns. And then if there is something official that is diagnosed, then we are able to offer accommodations for those things. So if you don't need accommodations will really get on your nerves.
Right.
You don't want extra time if you don't need it. It would drive you crazy. And so just there's some confusion and some questions about why do they get it and why do they not.
Right.
And it's very structured and official, and it's not willy-nilly.
Right. Right. And like you said, in order to receive accommodations, you must have the full psych eval.
Yeah, you do. And the full psych eval has to support.
Right. Has to support that.
Support the fact that the accommodations would help you, and that it's,
right.
They wouldn't help someone who didn't need it. It's not a leg up. It's
right.
Just allows them to give their best. And so so that's something. And then the last thing I want to say, I can tell I'm going to get going. You know,
I know.
Is that learning differences or neurodiversity or someone who is struggling along with this, and we're going to talk about how it's not always a struggle.
Right.
It's not a character flaw.
No, gosh, no.
These things are not.
No.
They're seen as deficits or as difficulties, and they present some challenges that we have to work through and overcome, but they also come with gifts,
right,
and make these people really marketable in the workforce and creative. And,
for sure.
Problem solvers. There's again, go to episode number 9, listen to it.
Seriously, yes, we do want them to go back to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're smart.
Yeah,
When you might have a learning difference that has nothing to do with your ability or intellect or anything like that. It's just logistics, really.
Right.
Really, it's just logistics.
So explain a couple of things. So 2 questions and all that. Accommodation. So I'll give you both questions first, versus modification. And then explain what some of the tests, if you can, that might be included in a full psych eval.
So accommodations are extended time. Let's say that you have a hard time paying attention.
We need to know what extended time is. Yes.
Okay. Say you have a hard time paying attention. You're going to lose focus, which, who doesn't? I mean, but if it really is significant and it impacts the classroom,
right?
You have extended time, and so you go to the extended time room. You get time and a half, if necessary. But that is not a modification,
right?
Which is something that we do not do
at all here at Brookstone.
Right. You take the same test. You read the same. If you are part of the Learning Center in any way, you're taking the same classes, taking the same tests, learning the same material.
Right.
So it's not.
It's not less work.
No.
Or any way made easier.
Sometimes it's more.
Yeah.
You're working really, really hard. So
yeah.
So there's that. We don't have a program for students to come into where they have different materials or different outcomes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. All right. So when you have a full psych eval, I'm going back to that.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of the tests that they might see that a parent or that a student might be given while at the psychiatrist, or what types of tests? Not necessarily names, but
So It's very comprehensive. What you don't want to do is go to the doctor and say, we think he has ADHD and we want to be tested for ADHD.
Right.
That is, someone might do that for you, but that's not testing that would allow you accommodations here. What we need is for someone to come at the child from all angles, because something like, it might look like you have ADHD, but you might be avoiding something that might mimic some behaviors that come along with if like, let's say you are having difficulty decoding words, and every time you sit down at your desk, you've got this really difficult thing to do, and you understand about yourself that it's not going well, and so what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to do something else and avoid it, and that can look like attention. And so we don't ever want to miss aim. We want to, if we're going to intervene and get in there and try to help the child, we want to know what we're dealing with. And so a full psych eval is comprehensive. It is, they're looking at, achievement. They're looking at math, reading, processing, social, emotional. They have anxiety.
Right.
Are they depressed? There are all kinds of things so that's a lot of tests. They usually take, a day, get a lunch break. If you go up, you can expect to, be there for a little bit, and it's an investment. There are some schools, independent schools in the Southeast, many, who require a full psych eval to enter the school.
Wow, yeah.
Just so that they know about you.
Well, there's just so
as
much
a learner.
information.
It's such a valuable thing. I would love for every child to have one.
I know.
So...
it's true.
It's visual, spatial. They're testing all kinds of things just to get a really good comprehensive look at the child to make sure that if they are going to identify something, that they get it right.
Right.
Because you don't want to waste time.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so speak to some. You mentioned some of these more commonly known differences or diagnosis. Talk to them a little bit, or speak to them a little bit. ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia. Just for those who aren't familiar with what those are.
So ADHD, we've learned a lot about it through the years. The common misconception is that you can't pay attention.
Right.
And listen, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not. I haven't spent my entire life focused on ADHD, but I can tell you some basics. That it doesn't mean you can't pay attention. It's almost like you're paying attention to everything. Like when someone is talking to you, you can see them, you can see what's in the room, you can see who just walked in, you can hear who's talking across the room, you can hear the person tapping their pen, you can see the cat, where's it going, what's it doing? You're taking it all in.
Right.
Therefore, your attention is really divided, and you missed the thing that you were actually supposed to be listening to when your aunt's talking to you about something and you need to respond intelligently, right? You missed the whole thing because all of the things.
Everything else is happening.
So that's an aspect of ADHD. Imagine that in a classroom.
Right.
And so, but also, parents will say, there's no way he has ADHD. He can concentrate when he's on his video game.
On a video game for hours,
so people who have attention stuff going on, they also can hyper-focus. They can get really focused on something that grabs their attention, and then you miss all of the other things. You forget why you opened your computer. It wasn't to do the thing that you spent an hour doing. So it's just regulation of that. That's what it is. The hardest time to have ADHD, and you could also have inattentive ADHD.
Right.
That's another misconception types. That you're bouncing off the walls and you're all over the place. But also a student sitting in your class who's looking at you and looking like they are the most focused child in the class. Totally somewhere else and missing stuff. So, but the hardest time to have ADHD is in school. Because we accommodate ourselves outside of school all the time. We all know adults who we believe have it and can see it, but we accommodate ourselves. No one's making us sit in a row and follow the, So it can be a real benefit in life to juggle lots of things and be creative and see things that someone who's not aware of everything in the room, you see things they don't see.
Right.
And so,
exactly.
So anyway, we just have to we have to get better about teaching kids that the gifts, the gift side of things.
That's so true. That's so well said. Okay, so dyslexia and dysgraphia. Explain a little bit about those.
Okay, let's take dyslexia first.
Okay, let's do it.
So, I mean, just if you take the word apart, it's a difficulty with words. And so that can look different in every child. One child with a dyslexia diagnosis does not present the same way that the next child does. It can be literally trouble decoding words. And then we, use Orton Gillingham, which was designed to help children with dyslexia learn how to read fluently.
Right.
And
I've got that on here too, so we can go into that a little deeper in a minute.
Or they can totally decode beautifully. They could be news anchors. You can put anything up there for them to read, and they're going to read it beautifully. They don't know what they read because they were focused so much on decoding the words that they have no idea what they just read. So it affects comprehension sometimes. And it's not that those students can't comprehend.
Right.
It's that they were doing something else when their brain would have normally been comprehending. So, that's what it is. It's it's the common. They get their D's and B's backwards, and parents will miss it sometimes because they're like, no, he gets his B's and D's right. So it's just more nuanced, and that's why you need a psychologist involved doing a full psych eval, because sometimes you're not reading because your attention is in play and you can't sit down long enough to read. So so that's dyslexia. Dysgraphia has more to do with have you ever talked with a child who could tell you verbally all kinds of things, very interested in things, knows a lot about some topic, but when you ask them to write, they give you like the smallest amount possible. That's a child who has trouble getting it down. And because this part is laborious and difficult, they'd just rather give you the basics and be finished. And so it's logistics. It's turn on Google Voice on a Google Doc and have them verbally just explain all of the things that they want, and you can go back in and they can go in and edit and make it. Be sentences and all of those things. So, again, not a character flaw.
No,
just a logistic. Like, let's get these kids are
give them the tools
bright,
they need.
and we just need to figure out how to help them give us their best.
Right, and that's what you guys do so well.
You're not smart because you can't give it to me the way that I've always required that. Right. I mean, let's not miss. Let's not let something like that keep us from really spotting and cultivating a child's gifts and knowledge and interests. And
exactly. Give them the space to grow and the tools they need.
Yeah, it's awareness of what it is, what it isn't.
Right.
More often we're fighting what it isn't.
Right.
It's not
That's so true.
a character flaw. It's not an ability issue. It's logistics.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so speaking of logistics, executive functioning.
Oh, that's why I have this out here. I want to the definition. So executive functioning is often mistaken for being organized. So you see someone that has the notebook with the tabs, or your church, and you see the person's Bible next to you, and they have it all color coded, and you think that is executive functioning, and the organization. But it's so much more complicated than that. So I'm going to read the definition because it's so good. I got this definition from Scott Hamilton, who's a psychologist in Atlanta. He has Understanding Minds. It's his practice.
And he's been here several times.
Word for he understands. He does full psych evals. He's a psychologist. So executive functioning refers to a person's ability to regulate emotions, behaviors, and environment in order to achieve a specific goal. And if you think about that, emotions, frustration, excitement, anxiety, distractibility, you have to have those things all worked out in order to make some progress. Sustained effort, so behavior, sustained effort, attention, follow through, and habits. This is no small thing.
No, it is not.
Environment, organization, space, stuff? Do you have the stuff you need? Do you have access to it?
Right.
Is it all in the right place?
Right.
While you are sustaining effort, following through, paying attention, and you're not frustrated or excited or anxious or distracted.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yes, it's a lot.
And I know adults who struggle with that. And so students in school, and there seems to be, so this wasn't a word. Executive functioning wasn't a word. And I don't know who coined it
No,
or started it. But I remember thinking, how did I miss executive functioning? So maybe 10 years ago or however long when it was really kind of the buzzword.
Right.
I thought, how did I miss it? Well, it was new. It's just understanding. Neuroscience teaches us, and then we go, oh, it's not just a cute notebook that has tabs. It's all of these components.
All these pieces together.
And I feel like we're hearing more about it.
I do too.
No data. So don't hold me to it. But I have no scientific data on this, but we hear more about it since we were out of school for March of 2020 for a while. I don't know what it is. But we hear more about it. And so, and it's not just students who have ADHD. They are students who can struggle with executive functioning. It's part of it.
Right.
Because paying attention is part of it. So if you take that out, you've got some trouble. But but it's all students to a degree. And it's something that we've started having a class in the 6th grade to make kids aware of what executive functioning is and teach some strategies and some skills that are transferable to all areas of their lives.
Love that.
We have a focus on it. We have someone who's working on it in intermediate school. We talk to all of our teachers about it so that they are aware of it in classrooms and can implement it. That's really where it's best taught is with the content. It's hard to tutor someone in executive functioning because you need a science project.
Something to be working on.
To explain it and help them with it. But, we're working on it, working on it a lot. And I sent an email
this week.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That was just some tips for, listen, task initiation is a big part of it. And a student who can't get started or follow through, just, there's some strategies to help with that. So that's executive functioning.
Yeah, there you go. I think it is.
And listen, you can't do it for someone.
No.
Parents who are at home cleaning out their child's backpack, helping their, binder be organized, you're really kind of robbing them of the opportunity to do that for themselves. And that's how you develop those skills is you do it. And your brain creates a pathway, and you remember what it felt like to feel prepared.
Right.
And then that's what you can tap into when you need to do it again. If someone's doing it for you, it's just it's not.
There's nothing learned there.
It's not beneficial. So we could probably have a whole podcast just on executive functioning. But we won't. That would be boring.
Okay, so going back, just hitting some things that the Learning Center does, and if we need to go any deeper in anything we've already talked about, but I do want to discuss specific to us seminar and tutoring. Kind of want to talk about those two things. Yeah, the differences between, or not even the Okay. Just explain how we work in that way.
So seminar is. And I love the name. I didn't come up with it. I'm not sure. No. Maybe before me.
It's been around.
Maybe Rainer Mullen, who was the director of the Learning Center.
Yes.
And put a lot of really good foundational basic things and got us, aimed in the direction that we needed to
Yes, she did.
But seminar is a class. So you take it in your schedule every day, just like any other class. It replaces a study hall in high school. And it replaces maybe an elective or a foreign language, in middle school. And it's fewer students. The ratio of teacher to student is not like a normal size class, maybe 8 students or fewer. And that teacher has access to everything, Google Classroom, CougarNet. They're really kind of unicorn teachers. They are. They can do all the content.
They can teach so many different things.
And I can help you in some content. I can't help you in every content. And these teachers have been high school teachers. And they may have taught math or taught something specific, but they they can help students in all areas. They are so valuable.
Yes.
And so it depends on the day, what happens in there. Maybe everybody in there is stressed because they have a test coming up, and so they're reviewing material. Maybe one child's working on something and another is working on something else, and the teacher is circulating and offering content support. It's a layer of accountability. It's content support if needed. It's communication with parents and teachers to figure out what's going on.
Right.
Some students don't need content support, but they cannot keep up with a piece of paper.
Right.
So there's some executive functioning support going on. So just a little bit of everything. It's not a cure-all. It's 45 minutes a day.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you did your homework the night before and you didn't understand number 2 and 3 in your math, you can come to seminar and ask those questions, and you can work through that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's great. It is an extra fee.
Right.
You pay a fee to be in seminar in middle school and upper school. So per semester.
Per semester. Okay, so tutoring
is after school.
After school.
Yes,
So
and
that happens outside of class.
outside of the school day.
Outside of school day,
after
yes.
office hours. So tutoring is different from office hours.
Right.
All teachers are available after school, including seminar teachers.
Right.
To offer some support. But then after 3:45, we have teachers who will stay, and we have them who stay until 9 o'clock.
Right. I know.
Last night I was walking out at 9 o'clock with one, saying like, "Okay, we have to go." But when a student, and we love the students who they seek it.
Right.
Sometimes it's parents, but a lot of times it's. I want help with this, which is my favorite.
Yeah,
that self-awareness and willingness to ask, because that's how the world works.
Right.
That's how college works. That's how the workforce works.
It's so true.
And so we have teachers who tutor, and then they tutor for, you pay them directly. It's not anything to do with the school.
The school, right.
You Venmo them
Right.
directly. So
Okay. All right. Okay. So we got that covered. And then now, last on my official list is going back to Orton Gillingham.
Okay.
For the lower school levels.
you
Explain
can also
what that
get
is.
Orton Gillingham tutoring.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Orton Gillingham it's not a program, it's an approach to teaching students how to read that is very phonics based. And my Learning Center teachers who teach it are watching this right now and going like, what is she going to say? Because I'm not trained in Orton Gillingham. I'm a trained English teacher.
Yes.
Middle school and high school English teacher for 15 years. And so they come to me knowing how to read. And
Right.
that was not my training.
Right. Right.
And so, but it's very explicit instruction to take students through phonics and blending and fluency. It helps them read. And these two people, Orton and Gillingham, are credited with having come up with this to solve this problem. And it's been around for a long time. And it's, the gold standard. And then there are a lot of programs that are Orton Gillingham based that have names and are packaged and whatever.
Right.
And at Brookstone, we are a structured literacy. My teachers have structured literacy certifications, and that means that they have a toolbox that they can use all kinds of things to help students who need support. You're coming for Orton Gillingham, and you're getting it, but we're expanding that into morphology and all kinds of things to help them break it apart, understand it, and then once you've had the training, you're not, it's not that you no longer have dyslexia.
Right. Right.
But you are able to access and read with comprehension and with accommodations. You move on. So we only do that in the lower school through fifth grade. You can have Orton Gillingham one-on-one. You can have it right now if you want it.
Right.
But you're going to go after school because that's not a part of seminar.
Right. Right.
And offerings like that. So
Okay. All right. That's very helpful. Okay.
our teachers have been offering Orton Gillingham long before everyone understood that it was good for everyone. Phonics work is important for every child. It benefits every child, and we do it in our lower school classrooms. This is just a little more one-on-one explicit instruction that brings those kids along and fills the hole that they need filled, and then then they go right back.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has all been very helpful. And I think our parents will find it very helpful.
I hope so.
Oh, I think they will. Okay, so now let's take a shift.
Okay.
Big picture. Things that I love to ask my guests. Okay. And especially someone like you, so involved with so many levels of students and faculty. We talk a lot about the core values here at Brookstone and the 7 that are in our mission statement. So I like to repeat these every podcast. So now all of our listeners will know them by heart, but loyalty, courage, wisdom, honor, service, respect, and leadership. So what do they mean to you? And is there one in particular that is important to you? And why do we need to teach these to our students today?
So I thought about this last night in preparation, and I can't get past the word courage. Courage for me, I think, is the gatekeeper for a lot of those things. Sometimes it's hard to be in leadership and to make decisions that are going to make someone unhappy.
Right.
And if you have, gotten input and spent time on it, and you've, used best practices, and you have applied wisdom,
right,
and you have to make a decision, you got to have courage to do that.
Right.
So, and then courage for respect. Sometimes you're in a situation where somebody or some situation needs respect, and maybe you have to stand up and be the one to be respectful. You better have courage for that, because if it goes against maybe what everyone else is doing, there's courage as the gatekeeper again.
Right.
Or I just think that it's kind of at the heart of a lot of them for me. When you have some wisdom and you need to make a decision or do something hard or whatever,
right,
it's helpful to have some courage.
Right.
And so I think that's the one that really stood out to me when I was thinking about it. They're all so important, and
they are.
It's important that we teach the kids now and make it kind of a second nature to access those words and to understand how they inform and drive decisions and behaviors, so that when they're out in the world, it's it's just part of who they are, and you fall back on it.
Right.
When you're stressed or you don't know what to do, you have these foundational things to fall back on that just kind of give you some structure and some guardrails.
Right.
That's why it's important. And it's really important to give kids opportunity to learn them.
Right. Right.
They're not just words. You got to put them into action, and we've got to put them in situations where they have to have courage.
Right. Right.
Which, can I add one thing?
Please do.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll get into it in a minute if we talk about books. I don't know if we still are, but
yes, we are.
Desirable difficulty. I want to make sure that we come back to that.
Concept.
That is something that it's not my. It came out of a book that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
But I think that learning those values and how to exercise them in your life require situations that are sometimes difficult.
Right.
And so, as parents, it's our tendency to want to protect our children from difficult things. I mean, it's kind of just a innate tendency, and sometimes those difficult situations are what develop those core values
so true.
in us, and that's no fun to hear as a parent when we have to go through something hard,
Right.
So,
right.
But I think I've just jumped ahead to the book.
Well, I think it's a perfect segue, and I love that. So yes, books that have meant something to you, that have had an impact on you.
Yeah, so many.
I know.
That's a hard,
as an English teacher, especially.
Hard question for me.
I know.
But I decided to stay focused on books that are relevant to the conversation we're having today. And
yes.
So, and
Perfect.
kids. So I'm gonna Range is not a book that I knew until Henry came.
Yes.
And
yes.
had
Had
the
us read
admin
that.
team read a chapter.
A segment of it. Yes.
Yes. And it was really useful.
It was very good. It was
really
very challenging.
good.
I think about that very often, actually.
Yeah.
So
Putting down your tools. And so, so this is the book.
yes,
Range. And it's David Epstein.
Yes, read the subtitle.
Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World.
Yes.
And so that's not super exciting sounding. We didn't have a choice but to read the chapter that we read. But I found it so fascinating that I listened to the entire book. And there were chapters that I would listen to twice because it's so applicable to what we do
Right.
with kids,
Right.
not just in the Learning Center, but just in school in
Right.
general.
In education.
And I feel like it should be required reading if you have a child, or if you teach, or if you
Right.
deal. It really, it talks about all of the experiences that we have combined in our lives lead us to be better at what we end up doing. So it's the Tiger Woods it's the Tiger Woods story that, you start early and you commit and you specialize and whatever. Well, that doesn't apply. There's no data that shows that that's beneficial in any other way.
Right.
And so, in fact, a child who specializes missed an opportunity to build other skills and other areas and learn context that makes that skill more useful and applicable. And it really helps you to understand that it's okay if your child isn't a superstar in a specific area and knows exactly what they want to do in their lives. That's not super valuable, is what we've learned. We want them to have lots of experiences that combine and teach them lots of different things. And I'm just butchering, just for the record, because it doesn't sound nearly as exciting and informative as it really is.
Right.
I mean,
I know.
I had lots and lots and lots of aha moments reading through this. And so,
well, even the one chapter, and I haven't read the whole book yet, and so I'm going to. It's on my list. But also, just that one chapter was just really thought provoking, and it does make you pause and think of how you approach everything. So it's very valuable.
That was the chapter where the firefighters were so trained to hold on to their tools.
Yes.
That they wouldn't let go of them when they were running away from the fire, and it slowed them down. Had they just dropped their tools, they could have
survived.
Right.
Yeah.
And so knowing when that tool works and when it doesn't
and when
apply,
it's working against you.
Yes. That was that chapter. And it was so great.
I know.
And, he challenged us to think, what are our familiar tools that at times need to be dropped? And I think we got a lot out of it.
Oh, I think so too.
The rest of the book is also full of, if you work with students or you teach, there's a whole, if your child comes home and they've always played baseball. And suddenly they don't want to play anymore. And it's not because of something that, we would need to mitigate as parents, but they really, really want to try something else. And we worry that they've given up or they're quitting or whatever. This would teach you that's okay.
How about that?
Better now. Than, wanting to, explore things when they are in the workforce and trying to, although that's okay too.
Yes.
That's what you learn too, that somebody who doesn't have a direct path that was linear and made a lot of sense. Sometimes they have the most versatile skill set.
Yeah. And I think that applies to so many of us as adults, but as kids too. We're so often, asking them, what do you want to do when you get older? Where do you want to go to college? All these things. And just the ability to just not have all the answers, I think is very common. And
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'm supposed to
perfectly
figure that
okay
out through my experiences.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, we do want kids, not to like demonize the what do you want to be when you grow up activities, because we want them looking at careers and understanding what people do and and understanding those things, but an overemphasis on decide now and start working on it
now
is
exactly
not a healthy and not a goal that we want to set. And it talks about the best researchers and scientists in the world have a violin hobby on the side that is really important to them, and that helps their brain take a break from what they were doing and do something completely different, so that when they go back to it, they are better at it. Some of the award-winning scientists are artists as well. And there's something to that. There's something to that versatility. So, again, read it for the official. I don't feel like I'm doing it justice. But anyway, that was a really powerful one. And desirable difficulty came out of that. That was one of the things that stuck with me, is that when we fix something for a child or give them the answers too quickly when they're working through a problem, we we keep them from learning. Because when they're frustrated and they have an emotion attached to that learning, that is what creates retention. If we just bail them out and give them some answers, or don't make them go through the difficulty, and I'm not.
No, I know exactly what you're
even
saying.
in math class, being mad that you can't figure it out,
Yes,
that's okay.
Yes.
Because that frustration attached with the diligence and going through it and working through it results in some retention.
Yes.
And that's actually what we're going for.
Right.
And so there's just some really good stuff in there.
That's good. Reminds me of the baby sea turtles, if you've ever heard that analogy of if they don't struggle across the beach to get to that water, they don't develop what they need to develop to survive.
In order to survive in the water.
Yeah.
And you think you're helping.
Yes, but you
not
want to pick
helping.
them up and just speed the process and help
Great
them
analogy.
get there.
It's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not unique to me. I read it somewhere.
I know. I'm kind of questioning right now if it's part of the book too, but
maybe it is.
It might have been referenced. But that's hard to do. That's easier to talk about and understand.
Right.
And then when you have the child at
When
home
it's your
who's
child.
going through the
I know.
difficulty, or you have a student, it's hard to remember that. So it's not, it's not easy. No, it's not. But it is important. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's the next one?
the next one is Generation Sleepless.
Okay.
A parent shared this with me. And wow, this is also a very powerful read.
Just the cover alone.
Listen,
it speaks volumes.
I mean, I didn't understand just it's an important read.
Yeah.
And teenagers are, the focus of it, but it can be for all of us. And it just compares your night, like with a certain amount of sleep. You are compared to a person who has who's intoxicated.
Yeah.
And taking a test or driving.
Right.
And, we tend to put sleep last.
Right.
Like, I have a lot to do, so I'm only going to get 3 hours of sleep. Well, that's really not healthy. And
counterproductive.
It's actually dangerous.
Right.
And I was really, because I am the girl who will get fewer hours of sleep in order to get the things done.
Right.
And it's important.
Right.
Our friends who like to go to bed early, they all know who they are. We've probably been giving them a hard time for a long time.
Yeah. They're onto something.
They had it going on before we understood. So,
okay.
Really, really
and
important
that
for
one's by
parents.
who?
Daniel Siegel.
Daniel Siegel. Okay. All right. These are good recommendations.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Daniel Siegel is the forward.
Oh, sorry. Scratch
Heather
that.
Turgeson.
Heather
Turgeon.
Turgeon.
And Julie Wright. Sorry.
Okay. All right. There you go.
I need to take my glasses out of my head as an accessory and put them on my face in order to read that. So, Turgeon and Wright.
Okay.
With a forward by Daniel Siegel.
Okay.
So,
those are great.
Those are two. They're
Those
not
are
okay.
two.
Those are not super exciting. I get that, but they are.
But we want to give
These
our
are
parents tools
hugely
here.
important.
Yes, exactly.
Rain
Important
and
reads
Generation
are
Sleepless.
important.
And I
Okay.
listen to them on when I'm
Audiobook.
driving and
Right.
working in the house, just
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's worth your time. Those two
Okay.
are worth your time. Wouldn't recommend them. We don't have a lot of time.
Right.
Wouldn't recommend them if I didn't think they were
If
valuable.
they weren't worth
and
it.
applicable to all ages. I think so.
Perfect. Okay. So moving on to our last question.
I don't remember the last question.
Oh, you don't? Well, good. Well, good. So I'm going to throw
It's
you
gonna
on
be
the
real
spot.
authentic.
All right. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, I do remember now. Maybe I don't remember because I couldn't come up with one. So many. I think I
It is hard to
said
narrow
this
it
in my
down.
last one, so I think I'm going to repeat it.
Go ahead and
but
repeat it.
It is one of my favorites. So as a teenager or a whatever, leaving the house, my mom, anybody who knows me well, has heard the things that my mom used to say.
Yeah.
My favorite. Okay, this is not the best advice, but it is good advice. Eyebrows up, shoulders back.
There you go.
Lipstick on.
Lipstick on.
And she would say that to me as like, once you do that, it changes your attitude and you can do anything. And I know you don't want to do this and you don't like it, but you're going to be like, eyebrows
I
up,
love that.
lipstick, shoulders back, lipstick on. And
There
then
you
just
go.
to posture yourself for,
Yeah.
doing hard things, having courage.
There you go.
But on the way
I
out the
love
door
that.
in high school one day, I was mad. I probably didn't like. I think I didn't like my hair or my outfit or whatever, something silly. And my mom said to me, "Bonnie, no one is looking at you. They are all looking at themselves.
I know.
They're not going to notice your hair. They're probably going to notice my hair right now. So does it hold true if you're being videoed in a podcast? But that is just that's just
so
good.
good.
It just gets you out of your own head and
it does.
Focused on other people, focused on work that needs to be done, focused on things that are important, that nobody's looking at you. We're all aware of what's going on with us that's not great, whatever.
Everybody's got it.
But they all are not, they're all thinking about their own.
Right.
And I think that's
really
get
good
that
advice.
out of the way so that you can just do important things.
Especially for a young girl, I feel like, they're just bombarded with messages and images. And so it's just such a good reminder.
I think so too.
Yeah. So
maybe not the best advice I've ever gotten, but
it stuck with you.
It did.
And that's, we want something sticky.
It'll snap you out of some self-indulgent thoughts or
Very
behaviors.
Much so. Yeah, which is always a good thing.
And I remember being mad. I remember thinking, it's the truth. No one was. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
This is always fun. And I'm just so grateful for the work you're doing and the work your team is doing. Not only as just part of the school community, but personally, I'm just really grateful for y'all. And so keep it up.
Bring us back and let us tell you what our plans are for the future.
Oh my gosh. Can we do that now? Can we just,
Sure.
Can I segue back?
Sure.
So we're just going to pretend I didn't just thank you for being here. What I want this opportunity right now. What is your vision for the Learning Center?
Well, since you asked.
Since I asked.
Take a sip of water. So we serve 20% of students at Brookstone.
Okay.
So that's, only a small portion.
Right.
But what we've learned as we've been doing it is that there are components of what we do that would benefit all students. And so I would love for us to have a space and and the ability to be open for all students.
Yes.
And train students or I don't want to say train is not the word.
Okay.
Cultivate a culture where students are aware of their gifts, first and foremost, their strengths, but also their weaknesses and areas that they need collaboration.
Right.
And that they have a place to go and get that. You don't have to, have something big and official.
Right.
But that you understand that this is a weakness. And I want those students to learn that skill as well.
Yes.
Learning Center students come out with a lot of grit and a lot of resilience and a whole lot of self-advocacy.
Right.
And I want that for all students. So, and then I
love that.
That space would, a picture, this is nothing official.
Right.
But I do picture a space where there are upperclassmen who, during a study hall once or twice a week, they are in that space as the fellow for whatever their expertise is. So maybe they're a math fellow, and then a student who they're not in seminar, they don't receive accommodations, but they are having difficulty with a math class, and they know that there's a math fellow who will support them if they run by during their study hall and get some help. So that kind of culture, and then that could be for science and language and writing, and we used to have writing fellows.
Yeah,
we
I remember that.
But that hasn't been around for a while, and so we want to get that back, but then also expand that to other areas.
Right.
And so, so that's a component. Also, maybe that math fellow isn't confident about writing. They might go see the writing fellow.
Right.
So for students to see each other that way, see each other's gifts, and but then also not see each other's weaknesses as something that it's not, but then it's something that you go and you need collaboration. We do that at work.
Right, exactly.
We're hired into jobs that capitalize on our strengths, and we know who can help us with our weaknesses, and we are open about doing that. And I want to create that in the school environment. And I would love for younger students to see older students. I do love that about the Learning Center now. We're all in one space, and so the younger children coming up to maybe have one-on-one Orton Gillingham or comprehension or math support. See the high schoolers also getting what they need.
Yeah.
I love that cross-divisional exposure so that they understand that guy who I see on the football field and he's so cool, he's also willing to ask for help when he needs it. I think that's an important skill to teach kids.
I agree.
So, and also for students who are gifted in an area, and it would be really cool if once a week they could come and have a group that really expands what they, or not, maybe more than once a week, I don't know, but to expand the things that they excel in, and, and you know, some enrichment for them, and some both ends.
Right. Yeah.
And that's sometimes the same student.
Yes.
You're receiving some support in one area, but you are, you know, you're gifted in another, and we just want to meet all that. We want to meet all those needs. So, that's my vision. Is that what we do with a certain, you know, percentage of the students, that we can make some of it available to all students, and that they have a place to go and be academically engaged, and project work can happen in there.
Collaboration, things like that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure, thanks.
I feel like you're working in that direction. So it'll be really fun to see how this changes over the next, you know, 2, 3, 5 years as your vision comes to a reality.
I'll never forget a parent who said, so they had a student in the Learning Center in seminar, and then they had a student that they didn't think, you know, that the student didn't need the Learning Center, but was maybe in an AP course that was really demanding and had a basketball game, but they sat in their car with like the dome light on, working on something in the parking lot before, and they, you know, that parent was like, he needs somebody too, and a place to go, and I'll never forget it, and thinking, they do, and you know, and that's a, you know, if we're affecting 20%, we have 80% out there who, you know, and listen, not all of them would take advantage and all of those things, but we would love to create a culture of it.
Yes.
Kind of like in college, where they go and get get the support they need, and have an academic center like that. So
that would be
phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Better shut this down.
I know. I
can talk about it all day.
Well, I do appreciate you sharing that with us, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for
so we
having
will
me.
have you back.
Okay.
Okay.
Anytime.